Did I say blackcurrant? How you doing everyone? Welcome back to Tapping Farm. Another rainy day in February, but I'm out here hoping to get on with the cultivation that's needed to be done to get our blackberry plants in the ground. In the last video, I gave you an introduction to our berry farm enterprise that we're starting this year and showed you the work that was involved in getting plot 1 ready, which is for our currants, our black, red, white and pink currants. But today I'm going to be working in plot 3, which is our blackberry patch. We're going to be growing 2 cultivars of blackberry and 2 cultivars of tayberry. And as you can hear, it is raining today. In about an hour's time, there looks to be a bit of a break in the rain. The plot I was working on yesterday was a plot that up until just last summer we have been growing vegetables in. So it was either exposed soil or compost added, no dig beds. It was a little bit of a sensitive plot to be working on in the rainy conditions. But the plot we're going to be working on today hasn't been growing vegetables, and for the last couple of years it's been grazing for our geese. I'm hoping to go in there with the BCS. I've chosen to use our tiller. I only need to do 5 beds because the spacing for the blackberries is quite large. So the tiller is just going to be used to break up the soil a bit to make it easy to put in the plants, and also to define the beds. That's the best thing about it really, especially working with what's essentially a small field. I'm hoping that I'll just cultivate and till the small area that's needed to actually plant a row of the berries, and then the pathways in between the rows of berries, which are going to be about 3 meters wide, they'll remain as this lovely varied grass mixture that we've got. Yarrow, plantain, red clover, various different grasses, and I should just be able to keep them mown as grassy alleys between the crop. But anyway, I haven't got out there yet, and I don't know what it's going to be like, whether the tiller will enjoy going through the ground or not, whether I will feel it's too muddy and too wet and too muddy, but we'll just see. Let's get up there. Alright guys, it's the next day. The weather got the better of me yesterday. The camera got the better of me. It ran out of battery just as I was making that first pass with the rotary tiller, trying to establish these blackberry beds. Ultimately it was a bit wet. I wasn't getting very good traction with the tractor. I was also having a bit of problems with actually getting the rotavator to bite in. If it doesn't bite in, it just self-propels itself over the surface. So I stopped what I was doing yesterday, and today we've got much better weather. The sun has been out for the last couple of hours. I'm going to head back up there and see what I can do. I might have to flip the rotary tiller over to our rotary plough. Ultimately that's probably the better choice anyway. With regards to soil structure, it's not so damaging. The rototiller inverts soil and pulverizes it, whereas the plough is a lot less damaging to soil structure and soil life. However, it's a bit messier, it's a longer process. I really was hoping to just do a pass or two with the rototiller, which would easily define our 75 centimeter wide beds that we're going to be planting into. So So anyway, I'll head back up there just now and we'll have a look. Alright, so I decided to change from using the rototiller and switch on to the rotary plough, and I'm much happier with the results. I managed to do one pass up the hill with the rotary tiller, which was much easier than my attempt yesterday. I think the ground had thawed a bit, which meant that the tines of the tiller were digging in. But as kind of predicted and talked about with regards to tilling, using rotavators, etc., it was just doing something to the soil I didn't like. There was a lot more compaction because the soil is pretty wet right now. It wasn't even really tilling that deeply. It was leaving a compacted pan where the tines were getting to. And I just thought, you know what, this isn't really doing anything useful. So I went and changed up to our rotary plough, and as you saw, I did one pass going downhill, throwing the soil to the right hand side, and one up, and it's created a rough, mounded, raised bed. It is actually a really good approach to doing this because we get two channels as such on either side of this raised bed, which allows the water to drain away when we get heavy rainfall on this slope. A lot of these berries we're putting in don't like having wet feet, so it's great that we've got them on slightly raised beds with small drainage channels on either side of the bed to lead the water away. It's a bit rough just now, but a bit of raking will sort that out, and we'll have a rough 75 centimeter bed. I'm going to do another one now, so I'm going to measure out where the next bed's going to go. We're going to have 3 meter alleyways between these blackberry crops, because obviously they're going to be trellised and could eventually get to about 6 foot tall, so we need to have space between the crops to not shade each other, but also space for us to go down the alleyways to prune and to train and to harvest and to do maintenance like cutting the grass. So we need to have a good couple of meters, 2 or 3 meters, to be able to do that. Yeah, I think we're doing all right. I'll bash out another one and see how it goes. Okay, so I've measured 3 meters from the center of that first bed out to the middle of the next bed. So all I've got to do really is set my right tire a few centimeters to the left of that flag and try and aim for the other one down there. Turn around and do the same. Alright, that's 5 nice raised beds prepared for our blackberry and tayberry crop. We've got 2 cultivar of blackberry and 2 of tayberry. Tayberry, for those of you who don't know, is a hybrid between a raspberry and a blackberry. Makes really nice, big, juicy berries. But this is a great place to be putting them. We're obviously going to be trellising them because they're large, vigorous plants that need some support to grow. So we're not done yet. We've got to rake these beds into shape. We've got to take out some turf, some dock roots that have come out, and then we'll be putting up the trellis ideally first, post and wire, and then planting the berries out. But it just depends on the timing. We haven't received the delivery yet of our wooden posts for the trellis, so I might end up planting the berries first. But everything went really well using the rotary plough. I'm so glad I decided to switch over to that implement. First bed that I cultivated with the tiller, there's areas of it where it's all kind of smushed together and got a bit of a kind of sheen, a compacted slick to it. And this is what that implement does. It inverts the soil and it pulverizes it like a blender underneath the hood of the tiller and creates a lovely tilth. Usually it hasn't today, it's too wet, and this is why I stopped. But usually it creates a lovely tilth, which is fantastic if you're seeding small delicate seed like carrot seed or salad mix seed. That fine tilth is really needed, especially when you're working with our seeding machines, our Jang seeder that we often use to sow seed. The fine tilth created by a rotavator works really well with that. So it does have its place, but just minimal use. It is possible to repair, and that's why we are cultivating the soil to an extent here. In theory, we could plant straight into the sod, but with plants like the raspberries, which is going to be our next plot, because we're planting them so close together, that's a lot of plants going in, and it's just a bit easier to get the job done when the soil is loosened up and ready to accept these roots or crowns or whatever it is that we might be planting. Oh, the sun's coming out, how nice. The BCS 2-wheel tractor is a fantastic machine in itself. It's been so useful to us here on the farm. It's so versatile, but the rotary plough really is a fantastic implement, one we've used a lot. I'm just going to go and have a little closer look again. A lot of worms in the soil, which is great to see. We've had the geese grazing on here for the last few months over winter. So there's a lot of goose manure has been added into this field. We've got pathways basically on the north and the south of the plot, which gives access to this berry plot, but also access to the forest garden tree rows that we've got to the north and the south, which are made up of apples and plums and autumn olive, raspberries, blackcurrant, various different herbs. So really feels like we're creating this plot, little plot in amongst strips of woodland. It's going to look very natural. Even with just being 5 rows of berries, we're going to get a large amount from them. Well, fingers crossed. Actually, that's a good point to bring up. We've never successfully grown blackberries here on the farm. This is our potential most challenging crop, along with Saskatoon and honeyberry being a bit unknown, how they will perform here in Scotland. When I tell people that we don't have a single blackberry, or bramble as we mostly call them here in Scotland, growing on the farm, people find that unbelievable, because it's quite common, isn't it, to acquire a piece of land, a small holding, and it's covered in brambles, but we just haven't had that problem. We haven't found a single one growing wild here. Plenty of raspberries growing everywhere, but not one single bramble. We have tried growing cultivated named varieties, and they've grown for a few years, but never with much vigor. So yeah, fingers crossed these ones grow, because we're investing quite a lot into this plot, having spent quite a bit of money as well on buying the plants. For me, it's that we haven't really given the other blackberry plants that we've planted over the years enough attention. They've always just been planted on a fence somewhere and left to get on with it, whereas we're going to obviously put a lot of care and attention into these plants and make sure that they've got the right soil and the right weed control and the right water and nutrients. So yeah, let's hope this will be very fruitful and that we'll actually be able to say that we have got blackberries growing on the farm, and that we do have a lot of blackberries to eat. Okay folks, I'm going to leave you here. I'm going to go and get our rake and just give these beds a bit of a shape. But thanks so much for tuning in today, and I'll see you next time. I'm sure it'll probably be our raspberry plot, which is right next door here to the brambles, to the blackberries. Before I do that, I've got to find a home for these young apple trees, which I grafted almost a year ago and built a kind of pop-up nursery area for them here. When I did that, I had no idea that we would be cultivating this plot into raspberries, so I might just quickly plough an area while I've got the attachment on the BCS to be able to dig these up and heal them in, because really I can find places for them to go this year. They're a bit small, but I think they'll be fine, and there's lots of places we can put more apples. So I'm going to do that before we cultivate the beds for the raspberries, which are going to be similar to the blackberries but just a lot closer together. So thanks again for supporting us. Hope you're enjoying these updates from our berry fields, and we'll catch you soon. See ya.